Hey, everybody, it's Nate Charles. Welcome back to the Rule of Law Brief. Before I get into the substance of what I want to say today, let me lay out the facts that broke within the last 24 hours because they're not minor developments. Number one, the Comey and Letitia James indictments were just thrown out. Today, a federal judge dismissed the indictments against former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James. The core issue wasn't even the merits of the charges. It was the fact that Donald Trump's handpicked interim U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, Lindsay Halligan, was unlawfully appointed. Judge Cameron McGowan Curry found that Halligan's appointment violated federal law and that every single action she took, including presenting both indictments to grand juries, was an unlawful exercise of power and therefore invalid. The judge emphasized that the 120-day interim appointment clock had expired months earlier, meaning that Attorney General Pam Bondi had no legal authority to install Halligan. The court went so far as to warn that the government's theory would effectively allow any administration to bypass Senate confirmation entirely by cycling unconfirmed prosecutors indefinitely. And I agree with the meat of that argument. Importantly, the court acknowledged that the statute of limitations has now run out on Comey, which means those charges cannot be refiled. James's case was dismissed without prejudice, but the underlying indictment is now legally and practically tainted. Comey, in a video statement, called the prosecution malevolent and incompetent, and he was right. And he warned that allowing a president to use DOJ as a weapon against enemies is fundamentally un-American. And he's also right about that. That brings us to the second development. According to NPR's reporting, the Pentagon has announced it's reviewing serious allegations of misconduct against Senator Mark Kelly, allegations that could theoretically result in recalling him to active duty for a court-martial. What was Kelly's supposed misconduct? I've already talked about this at length. He appeared in a video alongside other Democratic lawmakers with military and intelligence professional backgrounds, telling the service members they have a duty to refuse illegal order. That's it. That's the entire wrongdoing. Oh, and by the way, he was totally right. See my other video about that. The Pentagon statement explicitly noted that a recall for court-martial is on the table. Experts quoted in the NPR piece, including retired military lawyers, called this very rare, highly politically charged, and a real stretch, noting that such actions are generally limited to misconduct that occurred while on active duty, and several emphasized that Kelly's statements are constitutionally protected because they were made as part of his official duties as a sitting senator. This gets to the speech and debate clause of the U.S. Constitution. So let's be clear. The only reason that this is happening is because Donald Trump publicly labeled the lawmakers' video sedition and said it was punishable by death. It's not. They also insisted that these senators and other lawmakers be held accountable. The Pentagon fell in line because they're a bunch of sycophants. So that's the backdrop. Let's talk about what this actually means. The Pentagon threatening to recall a sitting United States senator to active duty for prosecution solely because he accurately stated the law regarding unlawful orders is one of the most openly authoritarian moves we've seen in modern American history. And I feel like I keep saying that. Mark Kelly's conduct is unquestionably protected by the speech and debate clause. He has absolutely nothing to fear legally. And the fact that the Trump administration is even posturing in this direction tells you the kind of government they're running. On the Comey front, the dismissal protects him personally, and he deserves that protection. I've criticized Comey's decisions in the Clinton investigation before. I think he made errors, but nothing he did was criminal, and certainly nothing justified the kind of retaliatory prosecution that Trump is demanding. But here's where my viewpoint might get a little controversial. When you're dealing with a bully, and Donald Trump is clearly a bully, sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand in the breach and refuse to back down. That's the logic of nonviolent civil disobedience. When someone abuses legal process to hurt you, there's real moral and political value in saying, go ahead, take your best shot. Think about the civil rights activists on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. They walked forward knowing that they would be beaten. They walked forward so that America would have to see what was being done to them. Part of me wishes that Comey had said, fine, you want to put me on trial? Do it. Because there's no jury in the country that would have convicted me. A trial would have exposed the weaponization of DOJ far more brutally than a procedural dismissal ever will. And because it was dismissed on technical grounds, the MAGA faithful will now spend the next decade insisting he got off on a technicality. So how does that apply to Mark Kelly? Mark Kelly should not have to carry out an act of civil disobedience to defend his constitutional rights. He deserves protection, and he will get it because the law is unmistakably on his side. But for the sake of the country, there is undeniable value in someone powerful saying to an abusive administration, if you really intend to misuse the military justice system against a sitting senator, do it in the light where everybody can see you, because that's how you break bullies. That's how you expose illegitimate power. And that's how you defend constitutional government when the institutions themselves are being twisted for personal revenge. I don't begrudge any of these people for doing what is necessary to get them out of a very difficult and highly abusive situation. But sometimes for the good of the country, you got to stand there and tell them, come at me.